guys? This is Team Fortress 94.6 here, and I know I haven't made a video in a really long time. But now that summer's here, and now that I have so much more time to record, I will be making a lot more videos for you guys. Okay, so today we're gonna start with one of my favorite classes in all of TF2, the Spy. Okay, yeah, alright, okay. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna be making a video about how to be a better spy in TF2. And, we're gonna go over the basics of Spy, exactly what he does, and, all that stuff, and how to be better at him. And I'm gonna talk about, all the revolvers, all the knives, all the watches, all the things that Spy has in his, arsenal. Okay, alright, so let's get started. So, let's begin talking about who the Spy is. So, the Spy is basically your assassin. He always sneaks behind the enemy lines, and he basically, backstabs people, and, saps their buildings and crap, and, yeah. He basically does all that stuff. So he's like the assassin for your team. So Spy that also means that the Spy is a support class, meaning that he doesn't go up to the front lines of battle unless there's someone usually with him. So he's he supports the team in a way. So he's not like he's like the indirect supporter, not the direct supporter. So yeah. But that doesn't mean that Spy's, not a class that's important to the team. One sapped sentry can change the entire game. That's actually happened to me before, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so Spy is also, in my opinion, the hardest class in the entire game. Now, yes, I know Lock and Load Devilman aiming. You could argue that that's harder, but I'm just gonna say right up that Spy, in my opinion, has to be the hardest class in the entire game. Now, there are many reasons for this. First of all, it's because of how hard it is to get behind enemy lines. Now, Spies can obviously, cloak behind enemy lines, or they can, run behind enemy, or not run, but no, but Spies can cloak behind enemy lines. There's many ways they can get behind, enemy lines, but the thing is that while you're doing that, you gotta make sure that you don't get caught, and that's probably the hardest thing about Spy, is actually getting behind the enemy lines. So, and if you do manage to get caught, you're basically screwed, unless you can pull off, like, a trick stab or whatever, or, in the nick of time, have the person that's chasing you be headshot, or, something that, like, is literally, like, so clutch that you won't believe your eyes. But okay, that's basically the hardest thing about Spy right there, is getting behind the enemy lines. But the next thing that makes Spy hard is how he attacks. Now, he's not like the soldier or the demo, or like, where like, they shoot explosives and deal explosive damage, or is not like classes like the heavy or the scout, or like the classes like that like rely heavily on bullet weapons to aim directly. He doesn't attack like that. He attacks, like I said, very indirectly. Like, he's not he's not the damage dealer. Like, Spy isn't meant to deal damage to like, he's not you don't run like into enemy lines with your like revolver trying to kill a heavy with that. Like, no, that's not what Spy does. Spy does attacks in two ways, and that's either by, or actually there are three ways, either by backstabbing, shooting with your revolver, or sapping buildings. Those are three ways Spy attacks. Now, the hardest of those three ways, as you guys can probably guess, is backstabbing. Backstabbing is one of the hardest, like, I have to say, one of the hardest mechanics of Spy is backstabbing. And why is it so hard? Well, why do you think it's called backstabbing when you're supposed to get behind the enemy and actually stab their back? Because if you fail a backstab, you're gonna butter knife someone, and a butter knife does pretty much like no damage, and they'll obviously know that you're a spy and they'll start chasing you, and you'll get killed, and you'll cry and yeah, all that stuff. But that's gotta be the hardest thing about Spies, besides getting behind enemy lines, is backstabbing. Now, the other two are pretty simple two things are backstabbing and no, not backstabbing. I just talked about backstabbing. What am I talking about? Those two things are what are they called? Oh yeah, shooting people with a revolver and sapping buildings. Now, shooting people with a revolver. Now, that's something that many people really don't do that much. And now, I'm not saying that, you know, like, it's the number one thing Spy does when attacking. It's definitely not that, but it's a very, like, it's like, there's even a whole play style based on, just literally the sharpshooter Spy, which is using the ambassador, but, people really underuse revolvers, and many people think that backstabs and using your knife is the only way spies can get kills, but that's really not true, because the revolver can output high amounts of damage out of quite a safe distance from your enemies. So, that makes it a very useful weapon, but that doesn't also mean that the weapon needs to be used all the time. The revolver is a weapon that should be used to finish off your enemies, or to kill, or to buy some time between you and the enemy if they're chasing you. If you shoot them, they'll most likely stop running for a little bit. So that's basically what the revolver should be used for, and it is not used as much as as I would expect it to be, because it is a very powerful part of Spy, and it is also the Spy's primary weapon. The knife's not actually his primary; it's actually his secondary. So, yep, if you guys are gonna take anything out of this video, just learn to use the revolver more. And there is one revolver that I think everyone should use more often, and I'll talk about that later. No, actually, I'll say it right now. It's the Diamondback. I'll make a more in-depth video about the Diamondback later on, but right now we're gonna just keep talking about Spy. Okay, so what's next about Spy? So, sapping buildings. Now, this is a huge part of Spy, and this is really what makes the Spy useful, is sapping buildings. Because, level 3 sentries can mean certain death to a lot of, to pretty much your entire, no class can, really survive a level 3 sentry. And, sapping those, and, teleports, my god, those can be a game changer sometimes, because of just how fast your enemies can get to the front lines. And those dispensers, while they might not be as useful as you think they are still pretty important to the enemy team. So, as a Spy, what basically sapping is basically you put you basically put an electro sapper on a building, and it destroys it. Or actually, it temporarily stops the building. So if it's a sentry gun, it won't be able to shoot. If it's a dispenser, it won't be able to heal and give ammo. If it's a teleporter, it won't be able to teleport people. And it does that for the duration that it's on, because your sappers have a limited amount of health. So if the engineer sees that you're sapping his buildings, he can just go up to his buildings and destroy the sapper by punching it with his wrench. Or I guess whacking it, but okay. If you're using the gunslinger, it makes sense if you just say you're punching it, but yeah. Alright. Okay, so basically, another thing sapping can do is actually can damage and even destroy NG buildings if they are left on for long enough time. So, if they are left on for quite a long time, they can be destroyed, and that basically can change the entire game, because Spy has another very powerful mechanic called disguising, which I'll talk about later. But basically he is one of the best classes besides the Devilman to take out NG buildings, because of how effectively he can take them out, and most likely because most of the time you're able to take him out without getting shot. And you can do it very quickly. So, yeah. Okay, so, like I said, we're going to talk about the next major mechanic about Spy, and that's disguising. And I'm going to have, like, a really, really long talk about disguising. Like, we're going to go very, very far in depth with the disguising, so you guys know pretty much everything about disguising. Okay, so, one of the Spy's most powerful things he can do is disguise. And basically, what disguising does is it makes you basically look like you're on the enemy team. Now, you can actually disguise as your own team also, and a very common strategy is to disguise as your own team to look like you're one of, like, the front. Like, if you disguise as a soldier or pyro, because and you go up front, the enemy team will actually think you're a soldier or pyro on the enemy team. So it really just helps to help you get off in front of your team. But most of the time the disguise is the enemy team. And now the thing about disguising, so disguising has been a huge thing, like people talk about, and that whether or not disguising is good or not. Now, in my opinion, disguising isn't meant to fool the enemy unless they're like a free-to-play like TF2 player that wears like a gibbous and is running backwards all the time. I don't know, like in Badwater he runs backwards. Like I don't even like what I don't even know how to describe a newbie player because I don't think I've met one in a really long time. But anyways, my point is that disguising isn't gonna fool a lot of experienced players. Now, why? Because you can't just rely on them thinking you're on their team just because you look like they're on your team. There are many things that you can that still let them know that you're not on their team now. And again, like I said, you can't just because you look like you're on your team doesn't mean you're actually on their just because you look like you're on the enemy team doesn't mean the enemy team will believe that you're on their team because of many reasons. First of all, it's the fact that it's fact of hitboxes. So you can always phase through your team's hitboxes, but for some reason it makes sense that you can't phase through your enemy team's hitboxes. So if you walk up to a player, you can't walk through them because you're walking to their hitbox, and the same thing goes for spy. When you disguise as the enemy team, you still have your team's hitboxes. So when an enemy walks up to you and he thinks he actually believes you're disguised and walks up to you, he won't be able to walk past you, and that is probably the number one giveaway that. Or actually, it's probably not the number one giveaway, but it's probably one of the biggest giveaways that you're a spy because of the fact that they can't walk through you. And that's also how people spy check, which I'll talk about later. So another reason why they can always easily tell you're not on their team is not only because of the hitboxes, but also because of the way how you don't take on the class that you disguise on. So, but what that means is basically if you disguise as a scout, you can't run as fast as a scout. You can't double jump. And same goes for a lot of classes. So if you disguise as a, I don't know, just, I don't actually know. But, anyways, you guys get the idea that you don't take on the mechanics of the class that you disguise as, and that is another giveaway that you're a spy. Now, the last reason why disguising isn't supposed to fool the enemy is because of the fact that, so we call this spy checking, and that's basically where, if someone does believe your disguise and that they believe, or actually no, if someone doesn't believe your disguise and they try to spy check you, and now there's many different ways to spy check, but if they spy check you and they do something that lets them know that you're a spy, then obviously you're screwed because they know you're a spy and they'll start hunting you. So basically, so there are many ways to spy check, and some of the most common ways are just particle effects in screens. So if you get burned by a pyro, or if you get Girardi'd, milked, anything that gives a particle effect that proves that you're a spy. So that's usually how people spy check, and that's how another reason why disguising isn't gonna help you. Now, the last reason why disguising isn't good, and this is probably, like I said, the biggest giveaway that you're a spy, or actually, it is, in my opinion, the biggest giveaway. So when you disguise as the enemy team, you actually produce this kind of smoke effect around you. Like it does not matter whether you're invisible or not, which I will talk about later, but. It does not matter whether you're invisible or not. You can actually see the smoke. Now you don't actually see it, you in first person. You don't actually see the smoke, but everyone else besides you can actually see the smoke. So if you're disguising right in front of an enemy, they'll obviously see that you just disguised because they'll see the smoke. And like I said, that is most likely the biggest giveaway that you're a spy. So disguising isn't, like I said, meant to fool the enemy. It's actually meant for another reason, and that reason is right now. That is to fool the AI of sentries. Now, Spy, one of his biggest things is taking out energy nests, and the ability that he can do it so effectively and so quickly, and not get damaged, is really, really good. And the only reason why he doesn't get damaged is because of the Sentry AI. So, when he disguises as a enemy, a lot of things on the enemy team can actually help you. So if you go up to a sentry gun, it won't actually shoot you. Dispensers will actually heal you. You can actually use enemy teleports, and you can actually you can get health and ammo off the payload card. There's a lot of things that you can do if you're an enemy. That, like, it makes you look like you're on their team because you don't get shot by the sentry and you get healed by dispensers. So yeah, that's basically what disguising is really for, is basically to stalk the energy nests and destroy them, because and the biggest thing is probably not getting shot by the sentries, and that's most likely what I use disguise for, and most likely what probably everyone else would use disguise for, because, like I said, it's not meant to fool people, it's meant to stalk energy nests. So the next time you disguise and you try to make it look like you're on the enemy team, trust me, it's not gonna work. Just if you're gonna go on the enemy team, just do it as yourself and not disguised. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Spy already. We've talked about disguising. We've talked about what he does. Now we're gonna talk about another major thing, and that's cloaking. So, besides disguising, another one of the things that Spy can do that no other class can do is cloaking. Now, cloaking is basically turning nearly invisible. Like, basically what happens is cloaking makes you turn it makes you almost invisible. Now, you can be spotted, you can be barely spotted. Like, if you look extremely close, you can just be barely spotted, but you turn almost barely, you are almost impossible to see when you aren't cloaked. And that's one of the biggest things about Spies. When you are cloaked, no one's probably gonna ever see you, and that's how you can get behind enemy lines. Now, cloaking can be done in many ways. So the cloaking is normally done by using mouse 2, which uses your watch. So cloaking is done with watches, and there are many types of watches that do their own special things. But I'm not going to talk exactly what each watch is and what each watch does, but you guys probably should know that if you play Spy. But another way is actually taking damage. Now, ironically, there are only two ways you can trigger cloak, and that's one is by using mouse 2, and the other way is taking damage with the dead ringer equipped, if you know what that is. Okay, so basically that's really how you can trigger your cloak, and that's how to get behind enemy lines. Now, cloak, again, is not the best thing. Like, you can't rely on cloak, like disguising to fool the enemy, because cloak also can be figured out by the enemy team, and there's also ways you can do that. The first major way that gives away that, or actually one of the ways that give away you're cloaked, is the fact that when an enemy bumps into you, and like I said, I talked about how when an enemy bumps into you, they don't walk through your hitboxes. So when an enemy bumps into you, you actually become slightly visible. Like, you're not fully visible, but you are visible enough to the point where people can actually clearly see you and know you're a spy. And when that happens, basically it's a dead giveaway, because they know you're a spy, and they'll most likely just start chasing you. Another reason why cloak can be easily, seen, or easily be, stomped, is by, again, spy checking. So if you are invisible and a pirate lights on fire, you can actually be on fire while you're invisible, and that's like one of the dead giveaways to spy. And there's other ways, like I said, Mad Milk, Girardi, all those things can give away that you're cloaked. So again, like I said, cloaking is not meant to fool the enemy. It's meant to help you get behind enemy lines and sap those sentries and do those backstabs. So yep, that's basically what cloaking is. And yeah, also one more note, if you pick up metal on the ground that usually is dropped by the enemy, if you pick up the weapon or you just pick up ammo packs, it actually refills your cloak, if you never knew that. Okay, so now we're gonna go and talk about some some things, like some simple things. So one of the spy's more simpler mechanics is backstabbing, and while this may be a simple mechanic, it's actually one of the hardest mechanics to do because of the fact that you have to actually get behind enemy lines. Now, backstabbing is simply just getting behind your enemy and, stabbing their back. Now, that might seem easy, but in reality, it's a lot harder. And because of how hard backstabbing is, people have came up with this thing called trick stabs, which are basically like NLG moves to backstab people. Like I don't really get the point of trick stabs. I think just to prove that you're a good spy or whatever. But I actually do trick stabs a lot, and I'm trying to make a montage of that. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Okay, so basically, backstabbing is basically just getting behind the enemy lines and stabbing them, and it kills them, and yeah, and so yeah, that basically is what backstabbing is. So yeah, it's actually pretty simple. So let's see, what else is there to talk about besides that? Yeah, basically that's really what all Spy's about, is being, that sneaky assassin guy, and all that stuff, and stuff like that. Okay, well, actually, since we do have some time left in the video, I think we're gonna begin talking about spies, or actually how to deal with enemies, or actually what. Okay, let's start with what the spy's biggest counter enemy is, and that's the pyro. Now, why is the pyro the spy's biggest counter? Well, first of all, it's the fact that he can spy check you, because he can light you on fire, and that gives away your location if you're disguising or cloaking. So that is pretty much the number one reason why spy is why pyro's your biggest enemy if you're a spy. Now, another big reason is the fact that pyros can actually what is it called? That pyros can actually outrun you if you're trying to backstab a pyro. Like if you're trying to cat mouse chase a pyro, they'll outrun you. But if you try to outrun a pyro, you can't outrun them, because of the fact that their flamethrower actually has some range, and that the fact that you run slower than them. So yeah, that basically is why pyro is spy's biggest enemy. And yeah, if you ever do face a pyro, I hope you do just run for your life, because there's really nothing you can do against them. Unless you have the Spicicle, that is, but we'll talk about that in a later video. Okay, so, now what do you do if you've met a class that, uses, like, a splash damage class, like Soldier or Demo? Now, usually the number thing you would do is most likely just run, but, now, if you are cloaked or disguised, basically it'll be very hard for them to spot you out, because of the fact that they can barely see you. And actually, cloak and disguise actually works best against probably Soldier and Demo, because of the fact that they have the least ability to spy check. It's very hard for Soldier or Demo to spy check unless they see you taking the explosive damage while you're disguised or cloaked, and yeah, and that's basically why Pyro's your biggest enemy, and Soldier and Demos are probably not that big of an enemy. But still, even if the Soldier Demo does figure out you're a spy, it can be absolutely devastating because of their explosives and how much damage it can deal. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I have for an explanation about the spy. I'll probably be making more videos about how to be a better spy. This video kind of talks about how to be a better spy. It lets you know more about the spy, but I'm gonna teach you more how to be a better spy, and I'll talk about a lot of spies' weapons. So yeah, my next all about the video will probably be about the soldier, because spy and soldier are my favorite classes, and yeah, that's basically it. There's really nothing else I can talk about. I mean, we do still have some time left in the video, but oh, actually, we can talk about one more thing. So, the montage that I said, my trick stab montage, that'll most likely be released in June, and or actually, well, I mean, it is June, but I mean, like, I meant at the end of June. Hopefully, I can release it by the end of June. Like, I'm trying my best. Like, I'm recording like every server I go on. I'm trying to pull off trick stabs and whatnot. Like, some of my trick stabs aren't even technically trick stabs, but still. Yep, that's basically all about Spy, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So, if you have any questions about Spy, I would ask that rate, comment, and subscribe, and, yeah, that's basically all this video is about. So, yep, next up will be all about the soldier, and I'll be making some, Spy videos more often, and, you guys can expect a lot more videos to be out a lot more often, because of the fact that I'm on summer break. So yeah. Yeah, that's basically all I have to talk about. Yep, like I said, rate, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Oh yeah, one more thing before I go. I am doing Road to Unusual, and I may or may not record all my trading and crap. But if you guys want to actually see it, if you want me to actually record Road to Unusual, you can post that in the comments below. And yeah, y'all enjoy it, and I'll see you guys all later. Goodbye.